Welcome back. So now that our Bastion host is ready, we can move to the next task. Now the next task is to create an auto scaling group, right? And to create an auto scaling group, the auto scaling group needs a launch template to use, right? And then this launch template will also make use of the machine image that we looked at earlier in this section. So I will switch to launch template, and from here I'll create a new launch template, right? So I'll click on create launch template. So I'll just name it web server launch template. Okay, and I'll use auto scaling guidance. I'll switch to my AMIs, and I should have the AMI populated for me. For instance type, I'll use the T2 micro, and key pair, for key pair I'll create a new key pair. Okay, so let me create a new key pair so that it wouldn't use the same key pair with the Bastion host. I mean, there are security reasons as to why, right? So but I'll choose the PPK because I'm going to connect to my instances with a PuTTY. So the name will be web key pair. Yes, this will be okay for me, and I'll create the key pair. Awesome. For security group, I'll use the cafe security group, that this one, the one that we looked at earlier. All right. I'll scroll down and I'll tag the resource. Okay. So the key is name, and then the value will be web server. For resource type, I'll leave it at instances. I'll expand the advanced details, and I'll give it an instance profile, and that is the cafe role. Awesome. So I'm done here, and I can now create my launch template. Once this launch template is created, I'll click on view launch template, and I'll create the auto scaling group from the launch template. So I'll select this, go to actions, and I'll create auto scaling group. So if you have watched the previous video, this should be very easy for you, right? It's almost the same, right? So I'll do web server ASG, and the launch template is the web server LT. So we missed the R, that's fine. I'll go to next, and for the VPC I'll change it to, and then use the two private subnets. So our auto scaling group will scale resources in a private subnet. All right, so I'll choose two private subnets, so private subnet 1 and private subnet 2. Okay, we are going to use those two subnets for our web server. I'll click on next. We don't have a load balancer yet, so currently there's no load balancer. That is fine. I'll skip that. For the health check grace period, I'll reduce this to 90 seconds. And I'll skip this. I'm not going to enable group metrics collection within CloudWatch. The previous one, it had that, right? But for here, we are also looking at different settings altogether. So here for our desired capacity is 2. Our minimum is 2, but our maximum is going to be 6, right? For here, we are going to choose a target tracking policy, and we'll use the average CPU utilization. And for the target value, we are going to reduce it to 25. Okay, and then the instance warm up will do 60 seconds. We are not also going to disable scaling, right? And we are not also going to enable scaling protection. We will not add any notifications. We'll go to next, and we are not tagging them this time around, so I'll go to next. And while I'm done here, I'll just click on create auto scaling group. Alright, the auto scaling group is being provisioned, but you can see the current instances count is 0. So I'll just click on refresh, and you should see the instance count is now 2. Alright, so when you provisioned it earlier, it takes just a couple of seconds to load the instances, right, per the desired capacity that you specified. So if I should expand the details and then go to activity, you should see 2 new instances that have been launched, but they are not yet in service. So while at it, let's go and then create our load balancer. So I'll scroll down to load balancer. So by now you are privy to the different ways that you can use to create your auto scaling groups and then your load balancer. The only thing that remains constant is that you have to first get your launch template, right? So you can decide to create your auto scaling group first, and then now come and create your load balancer with a target group, and then you go back to your auto scaling group to link your load balancer to the auto scaling group. Or you can create the load balancer first, and then through the process of creating your auto scaling group, you can just select the load balancer. So I'll go ahead and create, and that is the application load balancer. So the name is going to be web server load balancer. Okay, it's internet facing, and it should be lab VPC. It should go into two public subnets. So the public subnet 1, and then US East 1B, also public subnet 2. All right. And for security group, I'll create a new security group. So this will also be, the name will be web server, as you know, let me do it web server LB, right, so that I'll be able to identify it well. And this will enable public access via HTTP. The VPC is the lab VPC, and I'll add rule HTTP traffic anywhere. I'll go back to my load balancer and refresh, and I should have my web server LB. I'll remove the default one. I'll create a new target group, and for the target group, the target type is instances. The target group name, I'll do it web server app. Okay, for here I'll leave everything as it is. For advanced health checks, I'll leave everything as it is. Okay, and I'll go to next. I'm not going to register any new targets. All right, I'll leave it as it is and click on create target group. All right, so I'll go back to the creation of my load balancer. I'll refresh, select the target group. I'll leave this as default, and I can now create the load balancer. I'll view the load balancer. So I'll wait for the load balancer to be provisioned, and then after it's done provisioning, I'll now link the auto scaling group with the load balancer. So I'll end the video here, and I'll see you in the next video for the hands-on on how to link the auto scaling group to the load balancer, or the other way around, and then as well as test our cafe website.